Subscribe to our channel, share this video with other royal enthusiasts, and leave your comments. What do you think of the Danish royal family's conduct? In Copenhagen, rumors are growing, murmurs are turning critical, and once admiring looks are now tinged with questioning. King Frederik X and Queen Mary of Denmark, emblematic figures of a monarchy once thought to be solid, are now facing a growing controversy. The issue: their repeated absences from the country and, more recently, their vacations deemed inappropriate. In a kingdom renowned for its balance between tradition and modernity, this apparent distance between sovereigns and their obligations is beginning to grate on many. Denmark is not a monarchy like any other. Discreet, sober, almost exemplary in its way of combining royalty and closeness to the people. But since Frederik's accession to the throne in January 2024, following the historic abdication of Queen Margrethe II, the dynamics seem to have changed. While the enthusiasm was palpable during this symbolic handover between mother and son, the honeymoon with public opinion seems to have ended sooner than expected. One of the events triggering this growing distrust: a series of highly publicized vacations, just a few months after their ascension to the throne. The images made the rounds in the Scandinavian media: Frederik and Mary, smiling and relaxed, enjoying the heavenly scenery under the Mediterranean sun. Officially, it was a private stay, a well-deserved break according to the royal palace, after months of busy engagements and ceremonies. But in a tense social climate, where the cost of living is weighing heavily on Danish families, this getaway was not to everyone's taste. Criticism flew, first on social media, then in newspaper columns, and even in the hushed confines of Parliament. The royal couple's prolonged absence, while several important national events were taking place, was seen as a sign of disengagement. The unease doesn't stop there. This isn't the first time Queen Mary and King Frederik have distanced themselves from each other. Since their accession to the throne, the two sovereigns have traveled extensively, often solo, sometimes together, but rarely in an official Danish setting. Mary traveled to Iceland for a climate conference, Frederik attended a regatta in Spain, international engagements that are certainly prestigious, but which cast doubt on their true presence at the heart of national life. Some commentators no longer hesitate to speak of a globetrotting king and a diplomat queen, more often abroad than at Amalienborg Palace. Added to this is a perception of a growing estrangement from the people. Unlike Margrethe II, who is very attached to her closeness with the Danes, Mary and Frederik sometimes seem frozen in a smooth and distant image. Where their predecessor appeared in the castle gardens or walked the streets of Copenhagen with disarming simplicity, the current royal couple cultivates a more glamorous, almost unattainable image. A change of style that some describe as a necessary modernization, but which others see as a betrayal of the deep values of the Danish monarchy. The contrast is all the more striking given that Queen Mary, once adored for her sense of duty and rigor, is beginning to lose credibility. Her status as an Australian commoner, once seen as a sign of humanity, is now recalled in a more critical tone. She's forgotten where she comes from, some detractors murmur. Her pronounced taste for fashion, her often luxurious outfits during her appearances, and the discretion of her public interventions foster a sense of disconnection. King Frederik, for his part, seems unable to impose a reassuring authority. Long in his mother's shadow, he struggles to fully embody the role of sovereign of all Danes. His affable temperament and sometimes offbeat humor were his charm as crown prince, but these traits now seem inadequate for a monarch faced with challenges of national representation. Several editorialists have noted a lack of clarity around his approach. Is he a modern king or an absentee king? Does he want to revolutionize the monarchy or simply enjoy it without assuming its duties? The royal family as a whole is not spared. The couple's children, particularly Prince Christian, who is set to become king, are also under scrutiny. The young heir's adolescence is spent amidst increasing media pressure, with an implicit expectation to breathe new life into the institution. But at only 19 years old, he cannot yet play a stabilizing role. As for his sisters, their discretion fuels the mystery, but also worries: is the next generation of royals ready? Supporters of the royal couple defend their right to rest, their already busy schedule, and their desire to modernize the monarchy through discreet but effective actions. Mary, it is said, is working behind the scenes on ambitious humanitarian projects, and Frederik is said to be heavily involved in climate change. But these justifications struggle to convince a segment of the population, frustrated that their sovereigns are not fulfilling their role on a daily basis. Could this crisis of confidence worsen? Some observers are already speaking of a turning point. Denmark, a parliamentary monarchy with solid institutions, has not experienced a real royal crisis in decades. But the emotional bond that unites the Danes with their monarchy, a pillar of the country's identity, now seems fragile. What we are witnessing is not a revolution, but a slow erosion. And in an era marked by the demand for transparency and authenticity, the Danish monarchy must reinvent itself to avoid sinking into indifference. Behind the scenes, the palace is holding more strategic meetings. A change in communication seems to be under consideration. Greater proximity, greater clarity on the royal couple's commitments, more symbolic gestures towards the people. But the damage in terms of image is already visible. Polls reveal a decline in trust, particularly among the younger generations, who are less sensitive to rituals and more demanding regarding consistency between words and actions. As the next summer holidays approach, the king and queen's choice will be scrutinized. Going abroad would be seen as a provocation. Staying at home, participating in local events, and appearing in simple, informal settings, could, however, mark a positive turning point. The challenge lies here: how to restore the royal magic without descending into artifice. How to inspire dreams while remaining anchored in the daily reality of the Danes. More than ever, Mary and Frederik must reinvent their reign, not by multiplying social appearances or diplomatic declarations, but by sincerely embodying the humane and accessible monarchy that their predecessors had managed to preserve. For beyond the criticism, the Danes remain deeply attached to their royal family. It remains essential that the family honor this attachment. And you, do you think King Frederik and Queen Mary can still win back the hearts of the Danes, or is it already too late?